Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for giving your time, for being here this afternoon, and in return, I will work to make this a fantastically valuable 60 minutes for you that you can take away and use in your lifetime, in business, in personal, make it really valuable for you. As you can see, I'm very pleased to be here. Christopher Barrat, Greystone Partnership. I was just interested by two things. First of all, Denmark. I do have to say, I do like Denmark and the Danish people in general. I think you have a very interesting position in the world because I think that sometimes geography makes a difference to personality. So if you look at people who come from like the Latin countries, the sunshine, it affects them in a certain way. And as you move further north, so things change. So for instance, do we have any sort of Swedes in here today? Nobody's owning up to be Swedish. Anyway, Norwegians, oh, okay, yeah, couple. So start right up there, and do we have any Dutch here? Half. You see, even when you're half Dutch, you still speak out. Yeah, half, yeah. So, and you are perfectly positioned because the Dutch can be quite noisy. And the Swedish and the Norwegians can be quite quiet and shy. And you've got this nice blend. You're just in the middle. So you've got this nice confidence. In fact, the further north you go, so I gather it get even more shy and more timid. Somebody told me this. I'm not sure if it's true, but if you find a Norwegian, apparently some Norwegians are very shy and some are very extrovert and very friendly. And how do you tell the difference between the two? And the answer is that when a shy Norwegian is talking to you, he will look at his shoes. When an extrovert Norwegian is talking to you, he will look at your shoes. Now, sorry if there's any Norwegians in the audience. Anyway, but they wouldn't complain anyway. They go, oh, that's true, yeah. Okay, now, and so, and then my company is called Greystone, and I just thought there is such an affinity between your famous statue and my stone. I thought Denmark has got to be the place to come. So thank you very much. It's also an honor to be speaking at the Speakers Club. This is a strong club. I speak in a lot of places all over the world, and this is a very strong audience, so it's a good club. I think I might be one of the first English speakers to speak here, so thank you for that. I have to say, when I saw this on the website, the only worry was it looked a bit like this sort of Disney character Beauty and the Beast. So you've had Beauty and now you've got the Beast. Just a very short, so you understand a little bit about me, and then we'll get on to the content. I did actually study law. I have a law degree, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. I then went into selling. That's not a picture of me, by the way, but I went into selling, and I did selling for a long time, and commercial work. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and I worked in the chemistry industry. And I've done selling, and I've done buying. I was an international procurement director for a big company, and a lot of commercial work. So that's my professional background. In my personal life, I have two women, my wife and my daughter, I love very much and are incredibly expensive, and two sons, one who's just graduated, one who's still at school, and a dog. So I'm a family man. I live... for those of you who don't understand, that's Manchester. Manchester has two very famous football teams, Manchester United and Manchester United Reserves. And this is what I do. This is what I do. So I teach people leadership skills and commercial skills and communication skills. And what I found increasingly now is that they come together. People don't just want leadership. They want leadership that's also commercial. And they don't just want communication. They want to have something about how to talk to their people. So I'm working with several companies here. And networking, I think, is a good subject which covers a lot of that. How to communicate, how to think about being commercial. Because how you come across to somebody, the impact that you have, is very, very important. And I want to just tell you a little story. It's building on this law. Now, I have a law degree, and that means that I am technically in English, it's an LLB, Legem Baccalaureate. That means that I'm qualified in at least a part of the law. Now, when I first trained, I finished training, and then I didn't, in fact, become a lawyer. I started in business. And I went to Australia. Who's been to Australia here? Okay, quite a few of you. Who's drunk Australian wine? Pretty much all of you. Good, okay. Well, the place I lived was a place called Newcastle. It's in New South Wales. And my territory, my patch, I was a salesman, was the Hunter Valley, which is where a lot of wine is made. Very nice area. And in the Hunter Valley, there's a place called Cessnock. You can look it up. This is an absolutely true story. And in Cessnock, there's a bus company called the Rover Bus Company. And in those days, I worked for Rank Xerox. So there was my card. I had Christopher Barrat, so I had my business card. And I did business selling photocopiers. And I just started, and I had to go and see the man who owns this company. And his copier had broken just over a year from when he bought it. Didn't have an extended warranty or anything, so it was broken. I didn't sell it to him. I had to go and explain to him that I'm sorry, I know it's broken, I know it only lasted 13 months, you're going to have to buy a new one. And I did my best, and I was explaining away, and I was trying to come across with a good impact. And my card, this is what my card said. Because I wanted to look impressive. So I thought, if I write LLB, then people will think, oh, he's a lawyer. Man, he's good. So anyway, so I had that. This guy listened to me patiently. And then when I'd finished speaking, he looked at my card and he said, what does Christopher Barrat LLB stand for? Little lying bastard? I don't have it on my card anymore. So anyway, and that taught me about how you come across to people is very important. In fact, for those of you who know Australians, that was a compliment, at least that's the way I took it, because he was being friendly, and in fact we had a good relationship, it was fine. But how you come across in those first few moments when you're talking to somebody is pretty important. And that's why networking, you've heard from Slime that working network is very important. I actually think we have moved from what I call a hierarchical society, much more to one that is networked, much more to asymmetric. You can't tell who's always knowing who moves where, who's really holding the power. It may not be the boss person anymore. So things are changing. And that's why networking is becoming increasingly important. It is also part of the sales process. Now, you may network in order to get a husband or a wife or a lover. That's fine. It's also something that's good for business. And so we need to focus. It is about business that we're talking. I believe there is a universal sales process. Every sale works this way. 4 steps, 4 very simple steps, and every time it works. And this is really worth holding in your mind. And it works for both products or services, although what it's focused on is slightly different. The 4 steps are very simple. Know, like, trust, buy. It's as simple as that. And you have to go through the steps. If you try and jump the steps, you fail. You have to go through the steps. And if you're in products, then it's what you are selling that's important. And if you're in services, then it's increasingly more how you are delivering that service and who is delivering that service. And the process is the same. And networking is part of that sales process. And it's pretty much focused at the front end. Know and like. If when you're networking, you try and get people into the trust and buy mode, you are doing too much. You're doing too much. Trust is a position that you become, not something that you tell somebody you are. So you've got to earn that over time. So networking helps with the process, and I think it helps very much with this know and like part of the process. So what is networking? Well, it is a strategic, as Sulaima has said, process where you can map out your circles and think about how you're interacting with people. And actually, it's a real process. It's also a real process where you have to go and then do the thing. You have to be with people. You have to interact with people. And so I break that down into a very simple set of processes so that you can work out, okay, I need to network. How do I practically go about doing it? So it's step by step, very simple. You start by thinking about where would I go, and invitations, where would I go to do my networking? There's the very simple and very powerful moment when you leave this room here and you go out to the coffee area, you're then into, who do I talk to? There's then this moment when you go up and you greet somebody. Hello. And you think, all right, okay, how am I coming across at that moment? Then you've got to create the right impression. They have to know you and they have to like you. So you need to create the right impression. You need to start conversation. You need to have the critical answer to what do you do. Sounds very simple, but not many people have a really sweet answer to that simple question. What do you do? And then you need to think about following up. Now, we've had quite a lot about how you might manage your network from Sulaima, so we're going to, you've already got a great piece of information on that. And I'm going to take you through some really practical stuff. One of the things that I really want to work from the type of training I do is it's practical. It's something that you can actually work with. So, networking. Where do you go? What events should you go to? Because there's a lot of events out there at the moment. Which ones do you choose? The key thing here is to think about context, not content. Context, not content. So what you're thinking about isn't what is this subject about. The important thing is who is going to be there. So it's a different thing. I was doing some business with a UK company, a flooring company. They make expensive vinyl floors. They're called Antico, and they make expensive floors. And I was talking with some of their sales guys, and I say, do you network? And they said, oh yeah, we go to conferences and things. I said, what conferences do you go to? Oh, we go to exhibitions. Okay, what exhibition do you go to? Flooring Europe, we go to. Great. And then there's floors and wood flooring in the UK. Great, super. These are really exciting conferences, I can tell. Now, who is going to be at Flooring Europe? Flooring people, good, okay. It's like going to a disco where there's only blokes. I mean, that's if you're a bloke, by the way. So you go and you go, yeah, disco, oh, blokes, fine. You need to, you want to have different people in there. So the places they should be going is some conference on, well, the things I suggested to, for instance, get into architectural conferences. I mean, the title might be The Effect of European Legislation on Fire Hazard Safety in Multi-Story Buildings. I want to hear that presentation. Of course you don't want to hear the presentation. You don't care about the presentation. The point is, there's architects there, and these are the people who will specify your flooring. So that's why you need to talk to them. So thinking about context is important rather than content. Very simple. If you don't go, then you won't know. I've been to a couple of networking things, and honestly it's been, got to go network, and it's hello, networking, and something's come out of it. Something surprising's come out of it. So think about context and think about getting there and going there. Okay, so you've got the right conference, you've got the right event, and then you think, great, I'll go there. So you go there, and it's at the Radisson somewhere, and you walk in, and there's like a room full of vague people looking nervous. And you just join them. Ah. Who do I talk to? All right, okay. Now, this is very simple, and the good news, the advantage that some of you have from sitting in the front row is that you get to partake. So, could I ask from you this way, could you all just stand up and come down onto the stage? I'll be very gentle with you. Is that okay? You'll be fine. Trust me. You see, you don't, do you? Because I said you can't get ready. Come down the stage. Come down the stage. Give them a round of applause. Now, what we're going to do... oh, and Thomas. You too, please. Now, once they're on the stage, I'm just going to... I will move you around in a second once you're all on. Lovely. Okay, thank you very much. Now, Thomas, can you go and stand by the Speakers Club thing? If I can take you three down here, please. And if you could stand like that, that's great. If I could take you two, please, to the centre of the stage. And can you just face each other like that? And you guys just stay in a line like that. Okay. Now, when you come into any room, you will find people are in specific types of groups. And there's singles, Thomas at the back there, okay? Pairs, threes, or mores. Okay, so first of all, you look at the numbers, okay? Then when you get to little groups like this or groups like this, they come in two types. This, if you stay as you are, this group, which is known as an open 3. This group is an open 2 at the moment, and this group is an open 4. If I do this, this group is now a closed 3. You see? This group, closed 2. This group, if you come around here, closed 4. Do you see how simple? Now, either they will be open or they will be closed. Trust me, you will start seeing this now. Now, the question is, okay, you can turn around just so you can see. The question is, who is the most likely person to talk to me? Thomas, yes, because he's a sad bastard and he's over on his own at the back here. Nobody loves him, all right? Okay, so Thomas is the most likely person to talk to me. If you go up to any single person standing at the wall, they are most likely to talk to you. If they don't talk to you, it's because they're in security. So that's you just forget them. So he's most likely. What's the problem with talking to Thomas? I mean, that's not a general question, but I mean, what's the problem with talking to Thomas is that there's only one of him. And if you want to network, then it's about spreading your network. So we've now got a choice. Now, the simple rule for me is that, first of all, they need to be open. If they're not open, don't bother talking to them, because they're having a nice chat. So if these two are here, and they're going, oh, yes, and they're talking like this, and they've got into a good conversation, you will naturally close like that. That's absolutely fine. They're having a good conversation, leave them alone. These guys are nice and open. These guys are nice and open as well. Now, again, the simple rule is, this is what I call the wedding line. The wedding line, okay? And you'll see them now in rooms, and they often stand in a row like this. Now, the problem with a 4 like this is, what do you do? So, hello, 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 hello. Where do you start? Do you sort of stand here and hope this person This is actually quite a big group. 4s are actually a little bit too big to take, because it's quite hard to get in there. 2s can be really good. and best of all is threes with an open space and a woman. Now, it's not a sexist thing, it's just that naturally, genuinely, if you read this in books, women are naturally more, they will bring people into a group more than guys. Now, in fact, if you're at a networking event, guys will too. And the other thing to do, by the way, just if you have a complete choice of the room, pick people your own height. I mean, I'm not being silly, but I do some work with a Swiss company. There's a guy called Life Moll, and he is 6'4". When I'm talking to him, it's like this, and it's really quite awkward. And I was doing a ship. I was working a ship, one of these big conference ships, and there were two guys who worked together, and I was chatting to them, and I suddenly realised halfway through the conversation, not only were these very tall guys, they were very good-looking guys. Okay, and I thought, why am I standing here? I look bad standing here. Go find short old people and talk to them. That will make you look much better. So, pick, and this, honestly, when you go out into the world and start networking, it's so simple, because the moment you go into a room, you will start seeing. You'll see singles, no. Wedding line, tricky. Pair could be three, nice. Okay? And all you then do is you literally, that's your spot there, that's what you're aiming for. So you come in here and just say, hi, can I join you? That's all, hi, can I join you? And you're in. and I can guarantee, if they are like this, then they'll say, yeah, do join us. So it's very simple. Singles, pair, threes, open, closed, look, and you will seek, and you will find. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Do make your way back to your seats. Now, of course, you can say, it's interesting, yeah, but you've arranged people like this. You've arranged them in a certain way. Well, yes, I did. And the one thing I can guarantee you is that you will see that universally this is the way people stand. I did a little experiment. I actually typed into Google conference coffee break. A bit of a weird thing, but I just typed it in, and then I selected images. And the amazing thing is that there are hundreds of images of a conference coffee break that some sad bastard has put on the internet. Of which this is one, okay? Now, the interesting thing is, and these are absolutely genuine, I have no idea who these people are, I just Googled them, okay? Now, this is a conference coffee break. Now, you've been here, you've been to these sorts of things. Now, what I want you to do is start, as you start looking at this, you can start to see, can you see pairs here? Can you see open? Yeah? Some open, some closed? Now, what did I say? Who's the most likely person to talk to you? The single? Yeah, the singles. Because they're so desperate. Look at this person here. Oh, my God. Nobody's talking to me, so I'm just going to read a book. Okay, now here, you see these three here. What do you reckon they are? Closed three. Yeah, they're a closed three. These two here? Open two. Simple, isn't it? So you wouldn't necessarily pick these people here. They're chatting away fine. These two, fine. You can come slot in here. Even though they're talking, you can still slot in. Here's another one. So again, it's interesting this because just looking at the body language, I'd say these guys, all guys actually, these guys do actually know each other quite well. So they're having probably more of a business-like conversation because these guys, they're mainly closed or they're using the table to make a closed set. So these guys are mainly closed. And often where you get if you go, I work a lot with the biotech industry, and sometimes if you go to medical conferences, because they know each other and they're having quite technical conversations, you get a lot of closed pairs or closed threes. It's usually more open in a more general conference type scenario. And then here's the last one, where, again, can you start to see the various pairings or threes? In fact, here is probably an open 4. That's a closed 3. This is oh God, I'm really bored. Can we stop talking? 3. and I don't know what these guys are doing looking at the bushes. So but the important thing is that all of this gives you some structure. Now, is it the best structure just to go into a room and start talking to somebody? Maybe, maybe not. The other tip, of course, to be more active, to be more proactive, is sometimes if you go to events, you'll get a list of people who are there. And that's a good thing to start off with. And just try and target people on that list. And often, if you go in and there is a list and you have a quick glance down it and think, oh yeah, that person could be a good person to talk to, then just be a little bit more proactive. So maybe go back to the person on the desk or look at the name badges. Just see, has this person arrived yet? Is their name still there? If their badge isn't there, maybe go up to the person who's organising and said, I was really interested in meeting Erica. Is she here? Could you point her out? And they might say, oh yeah, I know she's over there. Great. I've now got a little bit of focus. Okay? Now this, as you'll see, this all needs to be quite gentle. This isn't like sort of the Bourne ultimatum with Jason Bourne hunting somebody down. So don't sort of stand by the name tags until they reach for it and then jump on them. You know, it's sort of be gentle, and be focused, So there's nothing wrong with a little bit of patience, a little bit of thinking, and again, if you want to focus on somebody or you're in a group and they're doing what they should do, which is asking you about yourself, as we'll come on to later on, just think about, okay, what am I now, who do I want to talk to? Do they know anybody who is here who has a whatever? So you're starting to more proactively use the time and use the way that you enter the room and get into talking to people. So you're entering that room, you started to work out who you're going to talk to, and then you come up and you're going to do the famous meeting and greeting. Now, the first thing that you need to remember is Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi. And the reason that I talk about Wi-Fi is that from the moment you enter the room, you are broadcasting. You are broadcasting. Your web is open. People are looking at you. People are starting to pick up your vibe. They will start to... Now, they may not all sense it. As we all know, women are particularly good at this, that you can go in a room with a woman and they've sussed out the whole room in a second. Men are just, where's the drink? Where's the pretty girl? Drink. Pretty girl. But in general, you are already broadcasting. Now, you may not know that. Well, you should know that. What you won't know is that other people are picking it up. And the really strange thing is they probably won't know they're picking it up either, and they are. So you are broadcasting. Now, the really interesting thing is that's bad enough, because everybody's picking up your Wi-Fi. Then, when you actually get to say hello to somebody, it's like you've gone onto cable. It's like ka-lunk. You're now docked with them. Because the closer you get, the more you give off. So, people will start to pick up. So it's kind of good to realize that first moment when you're meeting somebody, when you're greeting somebody, does have an effect. Thomas, could I borrow you again? Because the moment that you greet, and most people in most countries, certainly in the Western world, the normal greeting is to shake hands. And that's absolutely fine. And, come closer, Thomas, it's just something that you need to think about, probably more than you have been in terms of what's going on. And you'll get a chance to practice this in a minute. So, there is a normal handshake. And no tricks, it just goes like that. There we go, straight aligned, kind of like that. Simple, okay? There's also a couple of other variations on this that you need to be aware of, okay? First of all, there is the dominant handshake, okay? Now, the dominant handshake is where there's a number of versions of it, but basically they involve either coming in from the top, like, okay, I'm coming in from the top, or I will hold your hand and I'll twist it over like that. There's sometimes the hand crusher. I won't do it. There's a hand crusher, or I step in your space. Okay, and that's the dominant one. Okay. There's what's known as a double touch. Are you ready for this? Okay, there's a double touch. And that's very simple. So it might be something like this, or it might be something like that. Okay, a double touch. So at some stage, I'm double touching you. And then last of all, there is the wet fish. Okay, there's one of these. Okay? So you've got a normal one. You've got like a sort of some form of turnover. You've got some form of double touch. And you've got the wet fish. Okay. Now, what I need you all to do, is going to sound absolutely bizarre, this, is you need to stand up, and I want you to find somebody, I want you to practice just one or two of those with each other. Have a go. Have a go. Stand up and have a go at shaking. So I want you to do each of them, a bit of a crusher, a bit of a turner. Okay. Okay, guys, grab a seat. Now that is an incredibly simple exercise. And I've done this all over the world, and it's interesting how often when people actually start thinking about it, they start thinking about how different not only the feeling is, but also the reactions that come within you when you do it. Okay? Now, when you did, how different does the double touch feel? It's more friendly? Is it more warm? Is it too warm? Okay, there's quite a few people nodding there. So, yeah. Could be patronizing. That's a particularly good word. Yeah, it could be like, yes, hello, welcome, yes, little person, good. Actually, politicians don't, and bless you, yes, bless you. But it can feel like that. And that's a big difference. It's a big, if you just touch somebody, you know, a little extra, it makes a huge difference. This physical contact has an amazing impact on people. By the way, it's a slightly different story, but it just came to my mind. There's a fascinating, because I was teaching my daughter this. My daughter was working in she worked in a nightclub. And she was a waitress and stuff. And she could get, and I said to her, look, do you want to get more tips? And she said, yes. I said, well, touch your customers. And please, genuinely, I meant you just touch their arm. And actually, this is actually true. If you've got any daughters, sons, or waiters, by the way, if you touch a customer appropriately, that means usually on the arm or on the shoulder, then you will increase your tips by 25%. And this is the power of personal contact. They did a very interesting experiment. There's been an experiment done on this, and it worked, by the way. She told me it absolutely works. They did an experiment where they had a telephone box. In the olden days, where you used to put money in, they had a telephone box, and they had like a researcher was in the box, and they left some money on the top of the telephone and went out, waiting for the next person to come in. The next person came in, and most of the people took the money. They then went out. And what they didn't know is that there were researchers literally waiting in the bushes. And the moment this guy came out, the researcher came back out of the bush and says, oh, I'm sorry, I think I left some change in the box. Did you see it? And they split it half and half. Half of the people they just said that to, the other half of the people they went up and touched their arm and said it. There was a 90% difference in whether they gave the money back or not, just by touching. So when you touch somebody, it's a very, very important contact point. So you need to get it right. So yeah, the double touch maybe, and if you do it to somebody who you've not met before, it can be a bit too much. What about the hand crusher? What about the dominant one? How does that make you feel? You hate it? Yeah, it's not good, is it? How do you combat that? So somebody crushes your hand, what do you do? Yeah, most blokes go, you crush it back, you know. No is the answer. In fact, somebody said it. What you actually do is, ow, that hurt. It completely disarms the other person. It completely disarms, you know, it's just a very simple thing. The wet fish. Oh. Okay, the wet fish. Who knows somebody here, you know, you've had somebody in business and they give you a wet fish handshake? How does it make you feel? Weak? What do you think of the other person? You're all going, ugh. Yeah, everyone's going, ugh. Yeah. How long do you hold that image for? Forever. Oh, right, okay, forgive and forget, maybe. It's just a handshake, you know, forever I'm going to hold this. I'm not going to ever cross you with anything. Okay, but it is interesting. Okay, if somebody gives you a wet handshake, or like a pathetic one, it stays in your mind. Now, the interesting thing is that means for the first time that person is meeting you, the only vibe you are giving them is, ugh. And that's not very helpful if they're about to give you business. There was one particular woman who had like the worst handshake I've ever had in my life, and I had to really get all my mental mind clear. And it's interesting, I have done business with that woman subsequently, and I did in fact coach her and talk to her about this because it doesn't help her, because she's not like that. I don't know why she does that handshake, it's just a thing she does. The important thing for you, though, is to keep your mind clean. Because whatever impact, apart from the crush that they give you, keep your mind clean. Because you want to give off the right vibe back to them. Because you are connected to them. So you need to be giving off this, I'm open, I'm willing to talk, how can I help you type vibe. That's critical in networking. What's in a name? So you've only introduced yourself to somebody, and I have to say it's particularly difficult for me with Danish names, because say hello, and they say, hi, I'm Smith. I'm sorry, and they have Smith. And there is once you've asked 3 times, you're dead, aren't you? You can't ask another time, can you? Although, and then if you say, can you spell it? You just say J-Y-S, you know, there's too many J's in your language. So anyway, coming into this, who's good at remembering names here? That's none of you. Oh, no, one of you. Maybe. Who has difficulty remembering names? Okay, quite a few. That's okay. A lot of us do. Just a few tips. Okay, a few tips. The first tip is very simple. Thomas, quickly, back to the stage. Very simple, and that's about where on your body you wear your name badge. Very, very simple, okay? Now, most people do what Thomas has done. Now, which isn't quite right, unfortunately, because if we shake hands, okay, like this, then what naturally happens is the right shoulder moves forward and his left shoulder moves slightly back, okay? So what you end up doing is the famous networking bob. You go, hello, who are you? Because you have to read the name tag, okay? If it's on your right shoulder, then when you lead, it's much easier just to see the name. Very, very simple. The other thing is have it high up, okay? Because again, what then happens is when I'm looking at Thomas, if I've forgotten his name, and it does happen, I can kind of get his name out of the corner of my eye, and then that makes it easier to remember. So the first thing is wear your badge in the right place. If they have one of those dangly, you know, on around the neck, okay, it's hard. You just got to look at his groin, which is where it's hanging. If you can, have it here. And the second thing, I'll come back to the repeating in a minute. The third thing, though, word association, and particularly with Thomas, is that if you are looking at somebody, associate something with them and then link their name to it. It's how memory works. So if I look at Thomas, one of the ways I've remembered his name is twin. Okay, beardy, baldy, fat, thin, but okay. So I thought twin Thomas. So that's the way I'll remember his name. And if somebody said, what's his name? The way my mind would work, the way most people's minds, twin would come to mind, then Thomas. That's how it works. So association is very good. Super. Thank you, twin. So associate things, and that will help you remember. The second one, écouter et répéter, comes from those language tapes that you have. I don't know if you have them for learning English, but it's like you have a little phrase, and it goes, Marie-Claude est dans le jardin. Bong! Répéter, and then you repeat it. Marie-Claude est bong! So you do. Now, this is an American thing. It can be annoying, so take care. But what you do is you use their name regularly when... So they've just told you the name. Say, hi, I'm Thomas. And say, Thomas, what do you do? Thomas, that's very interesting. Thomas, tell me about. Because what that does is it helps me to repeat his name and associate his name with him. It's a simple tip. And last and not least, it's actually okay to ask. Now, this is an interesting social phenomena because most people don't ask. Who here has been, let's say, not business, but let's say you go to a cocktail party, you go to a party or something, and you go up and say, hi, you know, I'm Christopher, and the chat, and there's a woman there, and a bloke here and stuff, and she says, hi, I'm whatever his name is. And you're talking for a bit, and then you think, oh, shit, I've forgotten her name. Who's been in that circumstance? No, okay, I want you to imagine this, okay? So I'm standing here, there's whatever her name is here, and she's quite nice. And there's another bloke here, who cares? Okay. So I'm now, and I'm thinking, God, what's her name, what's her name, what's her name? And I'm trying to construct sentences so I don't have to say her name, you know. And it's like, and then out of the corner of my eye, I can see my mate approaching to join the open three here. And I'm going to have to introduce her. And I'm going, I can't remember her name. God help me. Now, why don't you ask? Well, you normally don't ask because you think you will look foolish. So you don't ask. What I want you to imagine, though, is I'm standing here. Here's gorgeous, whatever her name is, bloke here. Okay, so chatting. Oh, coming, I can't remember the name. This bloke here then says to this woman, I'm sorry, I'd love to remember your name, and I've forgotten it. What do I now think about this bloke? I think he's a hero. I think, oh, God, how did you do that? You're amazing, you bastard, because I want her. You know, so, now, and what does she think? Actually, most people, when they ask your name, you actually think, oh, they want to know my name. That must be important. You actually go up in somebody's estimation. Now, if you have to ask it 5 times, okay, maybe not. But at least once is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm sorry, I'd love to remember your name. I'm not good with names. My name is Christopher, just, you know, and then you just get it simple. Simple to do. Easy to do. Are you going to be good to me? Shrek here. Now, you come into a room, you start talking to somebody, and again, I'll talk about keeping your mind clean, but you do need to keep your mind clean, because if you look at somebody and you say, and what do you do? And they say something, you go, oh, for sake, not another financial advisor. You know, so I mean, but it's not the issue about networking, isn't just who you are talking to. The key thing about this is, who do they know? I was speaking at a conference in Amsterdam 6 years ago on how to motivate people. It was on motivational techniques for people. And there was a man in that audience who I've never met in my life. 6 months after that Amsterdam talk, I got a call from a Belgian company, part of a sugar group, and this woman says, you've never met me, but I've heard that you're a good speaker and we're running a conference, and could you come and speak? And we did some business, and I've worked for them for 5 years now, all over the world, fantastic. These are the guys who make the thing that makes your tummy healthy in Danone yogurt, you know, the bacteria stuff. It's called Inulin, and they're the world leaders in it. Great company, fantastic people, fantastic business. I've never met the person who recommended me. In fact, the woman who employed me, it was her husband. So you never can tell who it is who's in the audience or who they know, because it's often who they know that then becomes somebody you're networking with. So however odd or ugly or unusual or boring or uninteresting the person you might be talking to is, you don't know who they know. And if you try and cut them out too soon, you will never find out. I was at this event, networking event, and we're in a group, and in fact it was a lady. She came up to me and says, "Hello, I'm from J&J Cleaning Services. Hello, hello," and she did this and she straight and dominated the group, so I was already going. And she said, "What do you do?" So I said, "Oh, I work in business, and I help people with their communication skills." "All right," she said, "do you have an office?" "Yes, I do." "Who cleans it?" Mainly me, sometimes my wife." "Oh, you got an office at home?" "Yes, I have." "Oh, do you have an office?" I was like... Now, interestingly, what she didn't know, this is absolutely true, what she didn't know was that I'm also the chairman of a governing board for a big school in Manchester. 1,200 pupils we've got. All boys, so it's a fairly dirty school. So it's a big school. We were that term, that very month, tendering for a contract for a new cleaning company. She never got to know that, because I wasn't going to tell her, not after that first impact. So who do you know who knows? Pretty important. And that then brings me to this concept about keeping your mind clean. The reason you need to keep your mind clean is because your thoughts leak out all the time. It's worrying, isn't it? Oh dear, put that one to the back then. So your thoughts leak out. Now many of you have seen this before and know this. Words are such a small part of communication. I don't understand Danish at all. I hope I got about 80% of what Sulaima said, because she's a great presenter. So it comes across what she's saying. The words are only a small part. Now, we all know that most of the communication comes from the way your voice is, the tonality of your voice, and the sort of little expressions that you give off. Those are all driven by your underlying attitude. That's what drives it. That's what drives it. That's why when you get home and my wife's annoyed with me and she says, "Hello, darling," I know, it was just "hello, darling." No, it wasn't. It was "you're in for a hard time, darling." Just through, but it's all there. It's in your brain. That's fundamentally what leaks out. So keep your mind clean. When you're going into these arenas, when you're networking, be open, be fresh, be happy, because that is what will come out. And the more you can think in that way, the more impact you will have on other people. Couple of skills. These are big skills to master. I'm just going to go through them very briefly, very briefly. Of course, many of you will know about this, what I call physical rapport. So that's standing in roughly the same position as the person you're talking to. It puts them at ease. Okay? Now, it's not synchronized swimming, okay? So you don't have to sort of do that. It's not an exact thing, okay? Just stand in the same way as the other person. Use the same sort of gestures. Follow what they do before trying to lead them. Because the way that you physically interact is very, very important. This is all the subtext, what's going on in your mind. Again, very quickly, John Gottman did this wonderful thing called thin slicing. This is really scary, this. He got couples, interviewed them about what they did at the weekend, but also what they planned to do. If they were to decorate a room, what would it look like? And they had a little discussion, a chat about it. He filmed it. He then micro-analysed the little movements between the couples to see how they were reacting to each other and whether they were mirroring each other or not. He then predicted whether they would stay together as a couple. 90% accuracy, he could predict whether they would stay together 15 years later. Quite scary. If you're planning on getting married, by the way, and say, "Darling, just come for this little film session first." A few things I'd like to iron out. Okay? And the second one, of course, is the way you speak. And not the words you're saying, the way you speak. That's the speed and pace. So whether you're speaking like Sulaima, which is really, really quite fast and fits a lot of information into a very short space of time, or if you can't, is it Jutland that they speak quite slowly and very gently, and that's fine. So you might speak, that's fine. Try and match the other person's speed and pace, and also what's called pitch and tone, the way you go up and down, because that's how you get meaning from words. Very quickly again, in the States, a trial was done by an insurance company because they didn't want to insure doctors who got sued, which is fair enough because it costs a lot of money. So they did some research to find out, why will a doctor get sued? And they recorded their voices and then played them to an audience without, say, muffled what the words were. They could only hear the tonality. And they said, okay, you have to say, is this doctor in the got sued pile or the not got sued pile? And they were all non-expert, and they made them just short little blasts. And one section of these doctors had been sued at least twice, and the other had not. And again, the listeners got 90% accuracy as to which were in the sued and which in the not sued pile. And one of the main factors was these doctors were patronizing, to use the lovely word over here, were patronizing their patients. There we go, dear, you do that with this tone, da-dee-da, da-dee-da. That annoyed people, so if things went wrong, they sued. Tonality, very important. So, you're controlling a tonality, your mind is clean, what do you talk about? Well, you basically talk about them. Start with their interests before you start moving on to yours. So start with their interests. That's the key to coming across well. If you want to create the right impression, think of this English word, wait. Wait. And wait stands for something. Not why am I talking? Speakers Club, but if you're actually in a networking thing and you're talking to somebody, if you are talking to them, you are learning nothing. Think about it. That's why you've got to really think, why am I talking? Get them talking. Be interested before being interesting. Be interested in them before trying to say, let me tell you about me. You might have fantastic stories, fine. You might be a fascinating person, fine. That's not the point. There's a lovely story about these two people. These are two English prime ministers at the turn of the century. Gladstone, this chap on the left, and Disraeli, the chap on the right. And Gladstone, on the left, was quite a serious person. Both were very great men. Both were intellectually very strong. And there's a wonderful story. There was a lady of society who sat next to Gladstone at dinner, and a year or so later sat next to Disraeli at dinner. And she said, after I'd finished my dinner sitting next to Gladstone, I knew I had been sitting next to one of the most intelligent men in England. When I sat next to Disraeli at the end of the dinner, I knew I was one of the most intelligent women in England. Very simple. And keep that story in mind. It's about making the other person feel good. Talk about them, be interested in them. People are fascinating. People are really weird, and they're fascinating. Talk about them. Find out about them. And then last of all, and I know that Sulami had a triangle about takers and givers, give something. Find out, what can I do for you? What is it I could do for you that would make your life better? What sort of contact? What's a good customer for you? How could I help you? Because the more you help them, the more they will want to help you. And listen. One very quick thing on listening, because I'm conscious I've only got a few minutes left. Who thinks that they're a perfect listener here? Just the four of you then. Unless somebody at the back goes, sorry? What do you say? Not many of you. Let me reassure you, you are all perfect listeners. You are all perfect. The only issue is what to listen to. That's the only issue. You're perfect listeners. And there's only two things you can listen to, yourself or other people. That's it. And the problem is the balance. That's the only problem that you've got, because you're a perfect listener. If you're meditating, maybe you're right up there in yourself. Maybe you've got a daydream, you're kind of there. Maybe you've got one of those you know when you're in a meeting and your mind's, somebody asks you a question. Oh, right. Yes? Yeah. Actually, one of the best ones is this. Thinking of your next point. The moment if you remember this, this happens in what in England we call them domestics, when you're having a row with your partner. Okay? When they're speaking, what are you doing? Yeah, you're just going, yeah, finished. And now let me tell you about, yeah. It's completely irrelevant what they're saying. It's just a pause for breath while you get your next point ready. Then you might be focusing on the words, or eventually total listening is where you are just listening to them. Switched off all of this little dialogue, you're just listening to them. You're all perfect listeners. It's just a question of what you're listening to. One little phrase that you need to get practiced again in your mind is, when you listen to them for a while, then they might say to you, what do you do? What do you do? It's very tempting to start the sentence, well, I am a something. I'm a lawyer, I'm an architect, I'm an IT specialist, I'm a whatever. Fine, that's understandable. It's not very helpful, though. You know, I am a lawyer. Good. Try instead this. Start your sentence, I help people. What do you do? Well, I help people by... Because that then describes much more what you're doing. So it's not a job, it's what you do for people. And that's very helpful, because then that opens up conversation. That helps you to talk in a way that's more personal and more effective about what you actually do, rather than what you are. It's a difference. Now, we haven't got time to do it this evening. I would urge you to practice this, to get it right. You know, you want to have it so it's natural and it feels right, and it's about how you help people. So you've done all the good stuff, and as happens to us all, you think, the conversation's kind of finished. How do I get rid of this person? And we've all been there. If you need to get rid of people, actually there's very simple tactics, very, very simple tactics. The first one, of course, is if you're with somebody, I'll give you the best one at the end, but the first one is you're with somebody and oh, God, it's boring now, finished. Although you've already, by the way, if you're thinking that, you've already sent off your boring signals, coming out here. How do you get rid of them? Well, simple rule is, at most of these events, there's like drinks or nibbles or there's something out there, okay? Invite them to come with you to get another drink. Invite them, okay? Don't say, I'm going. Say, would you like to come with me? Come with me, I'm going to get another drink. Now, if you think it's boring, they have probably also come to that conclusion too. Or if you finished your relationship, fine. Then they'll probably say, actually, no, it's fine. Great, okay, you lost them. Okay? If they say, yes, I will, okay, try and avoid, okay. But, so, they say, come with me, great, super, come on. Now, you might lose them on the way, okay? Now, this doesn't mean that you sort of run, between people, dodging. But it's a busy room, sometimes you lose them on the way, okay? And then, once you've got, the important thing about the feeding trough, wherever there is there'll be other people there, okay? And then what you need to do is you need to introduce them to somebody, because you only have this problem when you're a couple. If there's 3 or 4 of you, you can just go. But if you're a couple, that's where it's a problem. So you bring your drinking thing and say, hello, can I join you? Marta and I were chatting away. It's fascinating, Marta. And what do you do? And they sort of chat. And then, of course, once they're talking, I'm out of here. I mean, if the worst gets the worst, say you're going to the toilet. If they follow you there, you've got a different problem altogether. Okay? But actually, in today's society, it is quite easy. Everybody knows about networking now. It is perfectly okay just to say, it's been genuinely very interesting talking to you. I'm here to do a bit of networking. Is it okay if I circulate and do some networking? Absolutely fine. Be honest, be open, keep it simple. Following up, I know you've had a fantastic talk on how to manage your network. Do follow it up. Who's on LinkedIn here? Most of you? Who occasionally goes and goes, how many people am I connected to? Yeah, we all do, don't you? You go, ooh, 1,900,000, fantastic. Okay. But it is actually very powerful. Okay, who do you know who knows? It's very, very powerful, and its impact is fantastic, because it's that difference when somebody rings you up and says, we met at this networking event, and I thought it was really good, and could you come and do something? I had a phone call yesterday from a guy called Jürgen Thurbel, who is a Dane, I think, and he runs biotech companies. He met me in 2004, and he met me again in 2008. And he rang me yesterday to ask me to do some work in April. So you've got a bit of patience, although the thing is, he's ringing me. So when he says, could you, in fact, he actually said, could I lure you to Denmark? And I said, yes, waving money does a very good job. And he was good about it, but it feels like he's trying to pull you towards them rather than you trying to push. That's why it is such a powerful thing. It's a skill. It's a skill. Okay? You need to practice it. Okay? It's like sex. It's no use reading all the books. You've actually got to do something to be good at it. So you've got to get good at it by practicing it. And if you do, then as Slimerson, you work your network, you will find you can be fantastically successful. It really does work. It is a simple process to do. So I hope I've given you some simple tips, some simple ideas that you can go away and practice in the enjoyment of your next networking thing. And when you all come to the Speakers Club next, you'll all be coming through that door going, singles, pairs, threes, open, closed. What are we now? Are we open or are we closed? I don't know. But you'll all be doing that. You'll have that language, and I hope it really helps you. Thank you very much indeed.